DistrictZuiryo Podcast, a podcast offering discussions and tutorials about nerdy subjects for people who aren't necessarily nerdy themselves. With you today is yourself, my nudie tutor, George, and with me as well is my mom. Again, we're fresh back from Japan, and we still got to finish off what we did in Japan here too.
What, I noticed you're wearing your yukata.
My hoppy, yes. I have this nice, beautiful, gorgeous hoppy with a dragon on the back. It is awesome looking.
I wore mine to work on Friday.
Oh, it must have looked really cool.
Yeah.
I'd wear it to work, but people would look at me slightly weird at work, baby. So.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't been worn to work before. I've seen salarymen wear stuff like this for big events. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So when we left off, we were in Nagoya. But we were going to move on to Mount Fuji, but we missed one thing that we didn't talk about.
We missed two things. We missed the Noritake Museum as well.
Oh, yes. We missed Noritake because, again, oddly enough, in Japan we found China.
Yeah, so that was a surprise find because you were just looking for something that showed up as a really cool park.
Yes.
And I think we were looking really to sort of while away some time before we could check into the hotel.
Yeah, because the place that we were checking in here wouldn't let us check in until about 5 o'clock in the evening, which is kind of true for a lot of the places we stayed at. A lot of the places were either like, you couldn't check in until 4 or 5 o'clock, which, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was true in Osaka.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that actually was true a lot of the places.
Osaka, Kyoto, I think. Well, I think in Kyoto we got there so late, but even then, like, I think the guy wasn't expecting us and wasn't certainly there. But that might have been that we didn't get there until like late.
But it was true at a lot of places, and I think it's part of how the rooms are set up.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are a little bit different, having mats on the floor that in some places were removed altogether.
Oh, yeah. And
folded and put away in closets. So a little more room maintenance there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, we found the Noritake Museum.
We were looking for a park, and we found the museum. And for me, it was kind of fun because I had Noritake China for my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
The museum actually takes place over several floors. They don't actually produce China there anymore, except for specialty pieces and figures.
Mm-hmm.
But we were able to watch the artists work. We were able to see how molds were poured.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the artists paint.
The kilns.
Yeah,
the glazing.
watch them clean and paint, and see the whole glazing and firing process. And then we found both my China and my mother's China.
Yeah, because they had a big gallery of it there.
Yeah, they had a big gallery with all the patterns that they'd ever made, along with some really cool sort of specialty pieces and awards they'd done over the years, and just a bunch of stuff.
Again, I mean, like, if you're into China, it's very impressive.
It is, and it's probably not something most people would like. For me, it was just kind of like a fun surprise.
Yeah. It was interesting going there and seeing all this very delicate china that I guess was made in Japan, oddly enough, and made in Japan in such a unique way because they were like, "Oh, the Americans are doing this so nicely. We got to step up our game."
Well, and actually, probably the French were with Haviland were doing quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of an interesting little surprise.
And again, it was just right around the corner from our hotel, and
just a couple blocks away.
Now, mind you, our hotel at this time was not a ryokan.
It was not. It was our one non-ryokan stay.
One of them, yes.
Yeah.
This was known as a capsule hotel,
which I wanted to do because it doesn't look like an experience you can have very many places.
No, I mean, they're fairly frequent in Japan, but mostly around major business districts, which makes sense because Nagoya is a fairly large kind of industrial kind of town. I got the impression of that when we were there. And so you don't see a lot of these capsule hotels outside of major in a lot of these areas. I think we maybe saw one in Osaka as we were passing by, maybe, but not a lot of them here. And they're fairly unique. Like, if I had the option to, I'd stay in capsule hotels in Japan.
They were pretty cool. So a capsule hotel, in a lot of cases, we were in business class, which is slightly different. But in a lot of cases, they are 2 or 3 up a wall, sort of like little mausoleum slots.
The best way I can describe it here is if you've ever watched The Fifth Element, they get in when they're flying from like Earth to this space paradise place. They're basically in capsules. I mean, that's about as big as they are. I mean, they're maybe about 3.5 feet wide by maybe 4.5, maybe 4 feet tall normally. And they have like a little TV in it. They've got a little like drawer place to put valuables, and you get a lock to kind of lock it up because it's pretty open access to anybody who wants anything there.
Yeah, like it's a lot like a youth hostel that way, where where you're sharing your rooms. So we had business class.
Yes, which was not intended actually, but I guess that was just like the lowest level version they had there.
So that was actually a little bit nicer. We were not a slot in the wall.
We were not. Well, we were less of a slot and roll. We were more like a column in a row in a wall.
Yeah. So
you had a little bit more space above you, and you weren't quite so claustrophobic in there. And
so we were probably 7 feet long by 4 feet wide by 7 feet tall.
Probably, yeah.
With a roll-up door that was a little like a
screen for a window,
like blinds, fabric blinds. It was a fabric door, like fabric blinds, and you weren't allowed to lock it.
Well, you couldn't lock it. No.
You couldn't lock it. So the bed was maybe 30 inches wide, and then there was or maybe 36 inches wide. And there was like a 12-inch shelf that had a locking compartment on it.
So you could store like a wallet, cell phone, valuables, things like that, which I do appreciate at the end of the day. But most of the reason why I don't pack my clothes into drawers when I'm on vacation is because I'm definitely afraid I'm going to leave something in there because I don't normally. Because again, I don't open up these drawers all the time, so I don't look in them all the time.
Yeah, no, I have the same concern.
So.
I mean, I put my camera in there. I kept my cell phone pretty much with me. Although I guess when I bathed, I did lock it in there.
Yeah, I put my wallet and
my purse,
my wallet, camera, tablet in there.
It was a decent sized compartment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it was perfectly reasonable for that kind of stuff.
What you didn't have
was a place for your luggage.
You were given a luggage lock. Mm-hmm. And at the end of, first of all, we were separated by gender. We should touch on this.
Yes.
And there was an elevator for women and an elevator for men, and your key card controlled which elevator you had access to.
Well, you got both you got kind of a key for the lock that was on that you had for your luggage. You got like a key card that lets you enter and exit the different floors and even the rooms themselves.
Right.
So I mean, like you had to have that pass to get into that floor.
Right.
It wouldn't let.
There was controls on the elevator and controls on the door. At least on the women's floor, controls on the door that got you into.
Same for us, yes.
Okay, so it got you into the hallways, and along each hallway, there were. I counted along my hallways. There were 8 rooms on either side, and it was shaped like an E. Mm-hmm. And it had 3 hallways.
So yeah, mine was it was like 6 on one side, and then there was a center hallway, and then there was like 6 on one side, and then there were like, I guess the more premium ones. There was like maybe 4 of them on the other side, and 4 across, and then you had another row like that as well.
Oh, we didn't have premium ones. They may have had on another floor.
I think that's what it was, but
yeah.
No, again, and then at the very, very bottom in the basement was the public bath.
So on our floor, there was the E-shaped hallways with the rooms, mm-hmm. and again, the rooms had TVs, but you had to use earphones. Yeah. There were wall plugs to charge things. Mm-hmm. I wish they'd had USB ports. Instead, they had
just the regular
outlet plugs.
Yeah.
But there was a TV and a remote control. Mm-hmm. What you didn't have was AC.
There was like a little fan in there.
There was a little fan in there. You're right.
Yeah, but not like AC, but again, like if you had AC, where would it go? It would kind of go everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
And it wasn't as if like...
And it's a small space.
It's a small space, but it wasn't as if like... It's one of the few times in which like we got there and it was like, oh, this is nice in here.
Yeah, and it was nice. Mm-hmm. So I guess So on our floor, mm-hmm. there was a
bank of toilets.
And there was a
giant bank of like sinks.
Yeah, and a giant bank of sinks, and I don't know about your sinks. Mine were very nicely appointed. There were blow dryers. There was so in the morning when you put on your makeup, there was everything you needed. There were soaps, there were astringents, there were things to clean your face. Yeah,
shaving cream,
Q-tips.
It had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it was really nicely appointed that way.
Mm-hmm. Mine was too.
Yeah, so that was on your floor, plus slippers.
Oh yes, obviously slippers for the restrooms.
Yes, because you don't wear you were provided with slippers and pajamas.
Oh yes, and oddly enough, the pajamas fit me.
Yeah, so mine did as well.
A little tight like the Hulk, but I mean but they fit.
Yeah, so you were provided with pajamas, which was like a really good thing, because the downside of the Capsule Hotel was that you had no place to open your luggage.
You could, you kind of could in your.
Yeah, you kind of did. I did in the hallway because I had a big piece of luggage, so I did in the hallway and took out the things I needed. But if I were to do it again, I would just carefully pack just a small overnight bag that just had tomorrow's clothes and my makeup in it, because that's really all you needed.
Yeah, no, again, I think the Capsule Hotels are genius for people who are just like day traveling, or they're just like, I'm here in this city now, and then I have to move on to the next city, and then I move on to like the next city. Like, they're great one night stays for the most part. You wouldn't in my case, I don't mind living in a place like this for like 3 days in a row.
I'd have been fine with that. Yeah,
and I for two different reasons. One of which is that when I travel, I don't live in the hotel.
You're out,
and you're out most of the time. So like a lot of that doesn't really make any difference. And then number two being is that like the price was very reasonable.
Yeah,
it was like, I think at the end of the day, it was about $55 to $60 per person. And like if you're traveling in Japan, like $50 to $60 a night for a place to sleep at that has all these great, and again, in all honesty, great amenities. Even for the premium class, was like very worth it. It was very reasonably priced, and it had a lot of great amenities. I'd do the Capsule Hotel in a heartbeat again.
I would too, and let's talk about the amenities. First of all, it had a great Onsen.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it had a great,
and had really beautiful wash stations. And this is again where you have the bucket and the faucet,
which is very typical of open air baths.
Yeah, and a low stool to wash yourself at, and it had just again
all the accoutrements.
Yeah, all kinds of soaps and scrubbers and anything you wanted.
Conditioner, body soap, shampoo. I'm so glad I didn't bring any with me, and I assumed I wouldn't need to.
Yeah, so it had the whole 9 yards, and then beautiful Onsen, which for the women's anyway was quite large.
Ours was as well. And actually, what I noticed is that the water that's kind of pouring into it will change how much is being poured into it based on how much water is displaced. So when a lot of people get out of it, the water obviously gets displaced because it's kind of got this invisible edge where it pours over. Well, the water will actually go quicker and faster depending on how many people are in it or not.
And this isn't a jacuzzi.
No.
Somebody asked me, big deal, I had a jacuzzi. This isn't a jacuzzi. This is a full-on steam bath. Mm-hmm. And really nicely done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the lobby had a piano playing in it.
Yep, it had an electric piano that played itself. And it also had breakfast in the morning. Not the greatest breakfast in the morning, but
mostly carbs. But
I mean, like, if you were going to work, it would be perfectly suitable.
But it had coffee and juice, and the lobby in the evening had nice comfortable sofas and lots of people sitting around. So if you didn't want to be alone in your room, you could go down to the lobby
and just kind of hang out
and just read. Or
they had a nice little corner in the back where it was just full of nothing but Japanese manga too. So if you really just wanted to read something, that was there.
Yeah,
there was a restaurant in Kyoto that did that as well, which I thought was very unique. I love that aspect.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, so I think there were a lot of people in the lobby in the evening, and it just really nicely done. And I would, like you, I would do that again in a heartbeat.
Again. I mean, if they had those more places, it totally would do that. And, and again, Japan just being what it is, like, I never felt worried that anybody was going to steal any of my stuff at all.
No.
Just it's a very nice place like that.
Yeah.
All right, so the next day, we traveled to Mount Fuji. Now, I knew that, and now I know this more so. But my intention was to get to Fuji and bicycle around for like a couple hours. We didn't quite do that because we got a little mixed up on our trains and got there kind of late in the afternoon. But it was kind of saved by the big hotel that we went to at the end.
Okay, yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite experiences in Japan for like a whole assortment of reasons. I think we didn't know quite where to get off for where we were going. So we at one point we went one station or two stations too far and doubled back, and then we got off too soon and had to go further.
Because again, like when you get into that station though, it stops and then it's like a big like V. Like it stops and you think, oh well, no, you got to get to the next train which will go more north, and then you come to realize, no, you just stay in the same train and it will go north again, the opposite direction. We did not know that. Yeah, it's not clearly explained at all.
Yeah, so that part was a little confusing, but that said, we opted to go straight to the hotel. Because the bicycle shops, and this is true of museums and a number of other places we went, there are a lot of things, at least in September, that close at 4 or 4:30. Yes. And the bicycle shops were closing at 4 or 4:30. And by the time we figured out where we needed to be, it was almost 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so we might have taken us a half hour to get all of our paperwork filled out and everything, and we would have had maybe bicycled for a half hour, maybe an hour, and then had to just double back right away anyways. And this is even before we knew where we were going to go and bike around. So
right,
I think
so the visitor center was really helpful. They will call the hotel shuttles for you, and they did. So that was really nice. And a lot of the hotels, because while we waited for our shuttle, we saw a lot of other hotels picking up. So this was our expensive splurge hotel, and I should mention, by expensive splurge, it was, by the time they hooked on taxes, $500 a night.
Yes.
But we knew that going in, and we wanted to do a room with a view of Mount Fuji, and this one had the extra sales point of having, on the website, really beautiful gardens, and a osan on the roof of the hotel, where you could watch sunrise or sunset, depending on your gender.
Depending on your gender, yes.
Over Mount Fuji, which was
just dynamite.
So
the entire experience is unique.
So we showed up, and you're greeted by a woman in
traditional
full on kimono, with
full kimono, maid's kimono, essentially.
Well, but with the belts,
with the full obi-san and the bow in the back, and she's got like a little apron going on as well. Yeah, like your traditional kind of like Japanese maid.
Yeah. So, and you're escorted to your room, and it feels really wrong, but she carries your luggage.
Oh yeah. No, for us, yes, it felt weird. We were kind of like,
I can do that. She's like, no,
it's our job to do that, and we're like, okay, well. Thanks.
So
I feel embarrassed by that too.
Yeah, it was a little uncomfortable, but
mind you, we get escorted by two of them.
And they take us up to the room, and the one kneels on the floor while the other one at the table. They sit us down, and she kneels on the floor at the edge of the low table and starts explaining things to us, while the other one lays out some clothes on the bed for us. And damn if she didn't like nail our sizes too. That was
she saw us and we were just like, I got the perfect sizes for you.
Yeah, so that was actually pretty cool. I try to explain that to people. That was cool. So and she explained to us there were actually 3 different sets of osans in that particular hotel.
Yes. There's one on the roof. There's kind of a more everybody kind of one that's kind of like on like the very bottom basement level, and then there's one that's like tucked away toward the back of the hotel that's like super private if you don't want to be like really like that, like they kind of like whisper around in the in the annals of the hotel. And so the deal there is, in that particular hotel, the tradition is that the minute you arrive, you put on the shorts and the hoppy. They give you like a hoppy coat almost.
Like a hoppy coat.
It's like a full on like top at the end of the day.
It is a full on wraparound top, and then a kimono So I just wore the kimono and the shorts.
It was a yukata.
I'm sorry, a yukata and the shorts, and
they give you an obi sash as well to tie it up because it doesn't have zippers or buttons or anything.
Right. So you get dressed and then you go off to the tea ceremony. Mm-hmm. And we had done a tea ceremony before in Kyoto.
Nagoya.
In Nagoya, okay.
Yep, at Nagoya Castle.
Yeah, so we'd gone to a tea ceremony before, so we kind of knew the drill. It was very similar to that, but the difference here was, to get to this one, you walked through these immense, really beautiful gardens. Mm. So we did the tea ceremony with the matcha tea, and a sweet. And I'm not real big fan of they're sort of bean curd.
Yeah, they're very bean curdy, kind of like it's
heavy.
Yeah, like
kind of gummy.
Very gummy, and my thing is I just don't like the way it explodes in my mouth and just kind of disintegrates.
It's a texture thing.
Yeah. So.
But I've had similar in other countries, including India. So it kind of reminded me of something it's just sort of traditional throughout the Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's very typical for that region of the world.
So afterwards, we went exploring the gardens, which went on
for quite a while.
Walking around in our yukatas.
And mind you, like everyone,
everyone's
walking around in yukatas
and your slippers.
And slippers, and a lot of I saw a couple people, Japanese people, that were kind of looking at it. I was like, "Ooh, look at them! Look at them hanging out with us."
Okay, so there's one of the big surprises. So after we walked in the garden, I think you went up to the roof because the Onsen that overlooks Mount Fuji is for men in the afternoon and women in the morning.
Yes.
So you went up on the roof, and I went down to the more private Onsen. I never did get to the one that was more populated.
I saw the one that was more public.
What did that look like?
Like a really, really nice open air one that wasn't too dissimilar to like Nagoya's, the one in the basements. Like,
yeah.
But like it wasn't out in the open. It was still very much closed up. It was nice. But I elected to go to the one on the roof because I wanted to see Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
During the sunset with the sun behind it, which was awesome.
Yeah, would be
a little cloudy, but like so, the roof one's got like this tiered sort of thing where like the water on the very top is really, really hot. The next one down is a little bit cooler, but not by much, and then the one at the very bottom is like got the most room on it, but it's just but it's a little bit cooler. But what's interesting about it is that it's on the roof, and it goes to like an invisible edge, so you can't really tell where the water ends or not. And it's literally just falling off the roof.
Yeah, it's an infinity.
An infinity pool.
Yeah. So, and did we talk at all last week about how you go in and out of them?
We were going to talk about that later on this week, but now is a good time to do that.
Oh, okay. So I got corrected the first time I used one. Washed myself. I took a towel with me and I washed myself at the stations. And the stations are all pretty similar. It's the low stool. You have sort of a little 3-walled station, maybe 4 feet tall.
There might be a mirror in front of you.
There might be a mirror. Yeah.
And the faucet's got like a double-edged handle where if you turn it up, it's got the shower portion. If you turn it down, there's like
it's got a shower wand.
And then it's got like a bucket underneath it that you pour it into, and then
like
you can dump yourself. Yep.
But yeah. So they were all pretty similar. But the first time I went to do it, I grabbed a towel on my way out of the little locker room area and took it with me to the wash area, mm-hmm. and then washed myself, and then wrapped myself in the towel and walked over to the edge of the pool. And I was corrected by one of the women who worked there, mm-hmm. Who did her best to kind of pantomime and explain to me that you don't ever touch the towels until you're going back in. Mm-hmm. You do not wrap yourself in the... So like once you take off your clothes in the locker room, you are naked. And you're going to stay naked. No towels, no nothing.
Now, what I can say is that if you are not comfortable being around other naked people in a locker room, and I'll let you know, they do not give two shits.
It's not anything.
Nobody cares. But if you still feel very modest about yourself, you can wear a swimming suit. They kind of frown. it's not necessarily frowned
see
against.
anybody.
No, you're not going to see anybody. But us Westerners, if you're Westerners like us, like, and we think very modest of ourselves, you can do that. It's not common.
Okay.
But you can.
Well, I'm going to say that after my experience with having the woman correct me with my towel and take my towel away.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, you're definitely not supposed to bring a towel in there with you.
Yeah. So my experience actually at the one that overlooks Mount Fuji was at 5:30 in the morning. I got up to see sunrise, and it was just breathtaking. And as you said, it was tiered. And so I noticed there were only maybe one or two spaces on the top tier when I went to get in. But I didn't want to disturb. There were a lot of women in there, all Japanese.
Yeah, a lot older crowd, I think. Maybe,
yeah, a lot. Well, and there I think one was a mother-daughter thing, and there quite a few. There was nobody on any of the other tiers. They were all on the top tiers. So I thought, I'll just be polite and I'll get in on the second tier so I don't disturb anybody. And no, one of the women just very, very smiling waved me up, and so and gave me gestures to come up here, and they were just lovely, and they chatted around me, and it was really marvelous. I expected some odd looks because I do have a small tattoo. Mm-hmm. I have the standard tramp stamp. And it's a very pretty flower, though.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I do have on underneath, but discreet, some bright blue hair.
Yes.
Just a little bit, not much. And you really don't notice unless I put it up.
I don't think anybody really cared at the end of the day, or
nobody cared.
Made any notice of it at all. I think it'd be more noticeable if you were just like covered in tattoos, but like
nobody said a thing. Here was the other thing I would say. So I went to Osan's a total of 4 times, and I was always the only non-Japanese person in there.
Yes, I was almost always instinctively the only white guy there too.
Yeah,
I did not see any other. But again, I mean, like, we stayed at particularly traditional places, so that's not a huge surprise to me that we didn't see a lot of other tourists there at all. September's not necessarily a big tourist season necessarily. We now know why, but I mean,
it was hot.
Oh, it was humid and ugly.
It was hot.
Feel free to go in September, but just know that you're expecting like very humid LA heat. Like,
so back to our beautiful hotel
dinner.
So when we arrived, one of the first things we were asked was there are 3 seatings for dinner. 6 o'clock, 6:20, and 6:40. Mm-hmm. And it's a 10-story hotel. It's a fairly large hotel
with 2 different towers.
So how many rooms would you guesstimate? 200?
No.
No.
No, I'd probably wager that place maybe has 150.
Okay, 150 rooms.
I think 150 because keep in mind like the rooms are pretty big, and while we were
that's true.
And
that's
then
true.
While we were on like the 3rd floor and it went up to like the 10 floors up, I want to say there was maybe like 8 floors per floor there, and then maybe like a couple of those rooms were like presidential quality rooms, a lot bigger.
Well, and the bottom floor, the first and second floor looked to be pretty much all meeting rooms.
Either meeting rooms or
the dining room,
lounges, and then the basement had just accoutrements of other stuff there too. So yeah. Nobody's living in nobody's getting to stay in those bottom level floors. So yeah, I'd say maybe like 150, and then for the staff that's kind of there as well, I got the impression like 150 to maybe 150 to 160 rooms, I think. Well,
I mean, just the dinner facility itself takes up room now that I think about it.
Yeah, because again, if you think about all the people there, like, it's a lot. And dinner is not a short dinner either.
So explain dinner for us.
So dinner was a traditional Japanese, like,
7
or 8, 9 course dinner that ranged from everything. It was like we had like sushi, we had like sashimi, like
separate from the sushi.
Yeah, like it just kept going on and on. Like one thing would end and then she'd come back and she'd bring another thing in, and then that would end, then there would be another thing that came in.
Well, and again we had our own young woman dressed in the full traditional.
Mm-hmm. in the full traditional kimono with the apron, and
who was kneeling and
she wasn't kneeling at this point.
Oh, that's true, because we were in chairs.
We would have been in chairs and at a table. Like, it would have been.
But she cooked at the table, and we had just
a very large meal. Mind you, the meal
and sake. The sake was
we
good.
had sake. What I found interesting is that, like, it's a long meal, but, like, every dish is a very, very tiny dish. It's very much what you would find in probably, like, a luxury hotel sort of meal at the end of the day. Everything was, like, everything looks as if it was made by a legitimate, like,
there was
craftsman chef.
There was one dish that was decorated by a slice of carrot cut into the shape of Mount Fuji.
Yes.
There were other dishes that were decorated with what looked like a parsnip or a water chestnut, done as a cherry blossom. Oh yeah, and then there was the rabbit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
these are definitely craftsmen at their jobs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything was just beautifully done.
Very much so. So we had this excellent dinner, and then we did the most kind of absurd thing I think we'd ever do in Japan. We went downstairs because they told us they have a taiko drum. They have taiko drummers that were down there, which were really cool. Cool taiko drummers.
They were nice. Yeah, no, that was a good taiko show. Yeah, it really was.
And then immediately
there were five drummers, 7 drummers.
No, there was like 7.
Yeah.
So there was like 3.
They have a stage. It's set up in the lobby, and they bring out chairs
with a moat around it.
And so we're all sitting in the lobby in these chairs. And you're right. The lobby has a koi stream running through it. And if you gather at the edge, if you stand at the edge of the koi stream, the fish all think they're going to be fed, so they all flock to you.
They're well-trained fish.
Yeah. But we're sitting there with like 250 of our closest friends, all in matching pajamas.
Yes. And now I want you to explain what happens next.
Oh, okay. So we are sitting there with 250 of our closest Japanese friends, and let me tell you that there were only 2 other pairs of people, because we're not a couple, but there were only 2 other pairs of people that were not Japanese, which I did not expect, because to me, when I booked this, I saw this as a sort of a very touristy thing to do.
But it was definitely not that.
But it was not that. So these were, the guests were overwhelmingly Japanese, which makes the next part of this story all the more bizarre, because suddenly we realize that they're describing the instructions, and we took some Japanese, just a little, not much. They're handing out bingo cards, the punch-through bingo cards.
That's right. We went and played bingo
with 250 of our best Japanese friends in matching pajamas,
and them explaining the rules of bingo to us. And me and my mom are looking at each other. It's like, well, you can forgo with the rules. We figured this one out. How do I buy more boards?
Yeah. So at one point, I was leaning over and trying to explain to a guy that he had bingo because it was diagonal.
Yeah.
And he didn't understand. He's thinking that it has to be in a straight line, up or down or sideways. And no, he had bingo in a diagonal. But they had enough gifts
that everybody kind of like won. Like, I think they had enough for like 50 people to win, and so like there was a chance that like everybody could win.
Every family, yeah.
Yeah.
And there were a number of families, lots of older people, as you said.
There were some people with children too. Like the first kid to win was a child. I think he got like a luxury pillow.
His mother was happy.
Oh yeah, no, it looked like a nice pillow.
Yeah, but there were we saw things where there were grandparents and parents.
Yep.
So it was definitely a place where you go to have your own, if you're Japanese, you go to have your own traditional Japanese experience.
No, it was very much kind of like getting back to like roots almost sort of thing. Like it almost reminded me a lot of like a family vacation or like a family weekend.
Right, and sort of a retreat. Because the gardens, again, they're Japanese gardens, beautifully done. Yeah, they're just, and huge. I walked after using the Osana in the morning, I walked the gardens again and took some more photos, and they're just stream running through, just beautiful.
Yeah, you can not take a good picture in there.
And then breakfast the following morning was a beautiful buffet that was
very plentiful.
Yeah.
And again, it ranged everything from like American to like a little bit of French and plenty of Japanese in there as well.
Lots of Japanese pickled eggs.
Yep, it ran the gambit of options here. So it was very
wonderful,
plentiful.
Wonderful breakfast miso.
Mm-hmm. Very very nice miso soup.
Yeah.
So we left the hotel and we made our way finally to Tokyo.
Well, first of all, we left the hotel. And we made our way to the train station, dropped our luggage in the storage things. And I want to say it's the first time I've ever used
storage at a train station or something like that.
But we used it 3 or 4 times on this trip.
Very, very, very useful at the end of the day. Like, would do it again.
Yeah, we'd definitely do it again. I'm nervous about it the first time because I was afraid, and the first time we were in Kyoto, I was afraid we'd never find that particular set of lockers in the train station again because the train station was huge.
Yeah, it was Kyoto Station. It's a huge station.
But I mean, we did the same thing in Tokyo and in Shibuya, and that's a huge station too.
Yeah. We also did it. We had to look a little bit in I think Shibuya here. Yeah,
we did, but it still didn't take us long.
No.
We still found them.
No, so we went and we decided that we were going to walk around for a little bit, and we found
walk around the lake at the base of Mount Fuji.
And then we went to. We caught a tram that took us all the way up into the air.
Yeah. Up on top of a mountain that faces it.
Yeah, and, some days you get a good Mount Fuji and some days you don't get a great Mount Fuji. We got a cloudy Mount Fuji.
It reminded me of going to Alaska and seeing Mount Denali because your odds of seeing it are about 50-50. You could see the tip, you could see the crater, but that's about all you could see. The rest of it was behind clouds, which I had a better view of it in the morning when I wasn't allowed to have a camera with me in the Osan. But,
well, again, I mean, like, what happens if your camera gets wet?
Well, but beyond that, I understand why that rule's there. But,
very much so.
But still appreciated doing that. One of the surprises for me going to Mount Fuji was that there's a fairly large. It's not a village, city.
Little town there, yeah.
At the base of it, with an amusement park.
Yeah, that has like a Thomas the Train bit to it.
Yeah, it has Ferris wheels and roller coasters and the whole 9 yards. And it was fairly large. And for a lot of things, when you went to go take pictures, it was kind of in the way.
It was just kind of there.
It's kind of there, yeah. So I was surprised because I guess I expected it to be rural and rugged and.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And it wasn't.
Oh.
But the lake is beautiful, and the tram was very pretty.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And there are boats you could take. We didn't take a boat.
No.
But there were boats you could take out in the lake.
Take out there.
Yeah.
Your traditional kind of like lover's boat almost.
Paddle boats.
Yep.
There were paddle boats. There was a tour boat that went around. And from the size of the lake, it would have taken 3 or 4 hours to bike around it.
Yes.
It's pretty good sized.
Yeah. So after we were done with that, it's maybe getting toward noon, we headed back to Tokyo.
Yeah.
We stopped off at Shinjuku, which was the major station there. We walked around for a little bit. We got to go up to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, and this is a big building. Well,
and we had heard that, because there's a lot to. It's like going to Empire State Building to go to an observatory in a big city like that. And we'd heard that Skytree, which is somewhat expensive as well, had lines that would take you up to 2 hours to actually go up.
Mm-hmm.
And we had read someplace else that you could go to this government building.
Yeah, you could go to this government building for pretty much free. It took us, I think, maybe 20, 25 minutes to get in. It was
a small line.
It was a small line, and it went really quickly, actually, by comparison.
I think the hardest part was just trying to find where you went to get in line.
Yeah, because it's not very clearly well marked at all.
Yeah.
But there was, again, plenty of nice people that were pointing us the right way to there.
Yeah.
So we got up to, I think it's like the 45th floor or something like that, or 43rd.
Something like that, yeah.
And you get this amazing view out of Tokyo.
360 degrees. And I'm really glad we did that on day one because it gave you a feel for how it just goes on forever in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
Every direction.
Yeah, no, it's huge.
It's huge. The other thing that it gave me was, they have their own sort of version of Central Park, and we got to look over that.
Yep.
And then you saw all these game pitches, whether it was soccer or rugby or
baseball, soccer, basketball, tennis. We saw a lot of that there too.
Yeah, and looking at it from that observatory, you saw not so much parks. You saw the one big sort of Central Park
giant
thing.
park. You saw some little playgrounds here.
Saw some little playgrounds,
maybe like the size of like a small playground, I guess.
Yeah, a small playground. You didn't see a lot of parks, but what you did see were a lot of soccer and rugby and whatever fields.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis, the whole 9 yards.
Especially design fields most of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you saw a lot of that, it makes sense because if you consider the fact that a lot of people live in apartments because you don't want to take up a lot of space for anything, you have a lot of these, pitches and everything that make it easy for people to kind of come and gather at a place, play their thing, and then move on, as where, like, a lot of these people might enjoy their own backyard if you own a traditional house, and go from there. I mean, it very much reminds me of, like, New York in a lot of senses, where you would have, like, all these specialized kind of places for that. And a lot of, I enjoyed it because there was a lot of cool buildings out there, and I enjoy the cool architecture.
The architecture was dramatic and fantastic and really something.
So after we were done with Shinjuku, we traveled down to Shibuya for the famous Shibuya crossing. I got to meet Hachi-san, which is this dog statue of a dog that was apparently a very popular dog in the area. And when he died, they enshrined him in a statue that apparently...
Well, there was a story about him in which he made friends with a
shop owner.
Yeah. And every day would greet the shop owner on his way to and from.
Well, he was friends with a shop owner that basically lived with the shop owner, and he was very much friends with everybody that would come back and forth through Shibuya.
Yeah.
And they kind of immortalized, and it was right by the station as well. And they've immortalized him with this statue that's literally right out in front of the station. It's basically like this very popular place to meet people at. It's very much always like, oh yeah, I'll meet you at Hachi-san, and like, oh okay, in Shinjuku, where will I meet you at? Oh, at Hachi-san, perfect. So that's where you go and meet him at. And then just directly across the way is like the biggest scramble crossing you'll ever see.
So I've heard that 200 people go through that crossing at every green light.
I would say probably 200 to 250, give or take. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that light's like every 2-3 minutes.
So we went to watch it from above.
Yes, there is a Starbucks that is
overlooks it.
Overlooks it. There's a couple other cafes that are kind of around there too that I think of grown out of the notion that you can overlook the crossing.
L'Occitane, which is a French perfume manufacturer, soap and lotion manufacturer, has a cafe overlooking it as well. That actually is a little higher up. It might be
a better view.
A better view.
But that was amazing to watch everybody just kind of cross the street at once.
Yeah,
this
amazing cool. In all directions.
This amazing collection of just absolute what looks like chaos.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing. And I videotaped it, and looking back at the videotape, it's one of those things where you watch that open space suddenly fill with people from all directions, and and nobody bumps into each other. They all just keep going.
Nope, they just go right through there. And then, so we got to a ryokan that night, which is probably the smallest ryokan we stayed at the entire time.
It was cool, though.
Again, I don't go to hotels to live in hotels. I go to hotels to sleep in hotels.
So this one was done in sort of an industrial fashion.
Yes, a very tiny, like a king-sized mattress would be barely fitting in the room.
Yeah.
Like maybe like a queen-size mattress could barely fit in the room with edges on the sides. That's how really small it is. But again, if you got the futons in there, it's really not that bad. And again, I mean, whenever we got back in there, we mostly. We're just sitting on the floor, perfectly content with ourselves, just leaning up against the wall. Never at any time did I think I wanted a chair at any point in any of these places we were at. Never did I ever think, oh man, a chair would be really nice to sit in. No.
Yeah, it had nice cupboards on the one end by the door. It had really nice cupboards. Again, they provide you with slippers. This one didn't provide any sort of clothing, and actually, only two of them did. Which was the
smallest bathroom in the world, though.
Smallest bathroom. So there was a shower on each floor. A women's. I never did use either of the other two toilets.
No,
a women's toilet and a men's toilet.
One of them was a women's, and one of them was like a unisex toilet.
Oh, was it? Okay, and then the one directly across from our room, which had 2 faucets and then a small sliding door that covered 2 urinals, and then beyond that door, a toilet.
Was an actual toilet, which was probably the biggest roomed area there. Which would, again, for us, I mean, us American-sized people, we're not small creatures. We'll put it that way. So,
yeah.
So for us, that was tiny. But again, if you're a smaller person, like a smaller European or smaller Japanese person, hey, this is perfect for you. You don't need that much space.
Well, I mean, the room was nicely appointed.
Oh, yes,
it had
absolutely.
nice cupboards. It had a TV. We only ever watched the TV, I think, once.
And that was to watch sumo.
Yeah, and we'll talk about why we did that. But in the common area on each floor, there was a microwave. There was a little refrigerator.
Very useful.
It was very nicely done. I did walk in on somebody showering because they didn't lock the door. That shower was microscopic because you had the shower stall, which was maybe 30 by 30, not even.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, if that. And then there was about a foot that wasn't in the shower stall. I mean, you couldn't exit the shower stall.
There's like maybe like a 5-inch, 6-inch sort of gap between where you close the doors for the shower
to make it soundproof, so you're not disturbing the people whose rooms are right across the hall.
And then this door across the way, and even then, keep in mind that like there's like this little trash can bucket that's like between the two of them there, between like the shower doors and the main door, the shower door and the doors leading to the outside. And that's where you put your clothes at. Yeah. So you can go to the shower. So your clothes don't get wet while you're in the shower. Well, because again, it's the tiniest shower in the world that I've ever been to. Oh, I'm sure there's. I admit there are probably smaller showers. I can't imagine. I could barely stand. It's like you couldn't really. It was hard to turn. It was very hard to turn and very hard to bend down to. Yeah. Well, and my thing was it was hard to get dressed because you actually had to stand inside the shower stall trying to put your clothes on. And the walls of the shower are wet. So the floor of the shower is wet. I mean, at one point here, like I just refused to do that. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna put on my shorts and my underwear. I'm gonna walk back to my room and hope there's nobody else in the hallway. Great, nobody else in the hallway. Perfect. Moving on. Yeah. So I wasn't that brave. So I'm sitting there trying to put on leggings in this itty bitty shower stall and not fall against anything and get them wet, but. Really wouldn't have mattered. It was hot enough that they would have dried pretty quickly anyway. Yeah. Humidity not optional. Yeah. And we were on the 3rd floor, and it was all stairs, fine by me. There was a luggage elevator. They did have a luggage elevator, but it was luggage only. Yeah. Well, I mean, like you would want to put anything else in there. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was strictly a luggage elevator, but very useful. Functioning. Great location. Mm-hmm. Just maybe about 10-minute walk from our station. 7 or 8, yeah. Give or take, yeah. Yeah, and again, a Family Mart close by, much like the 7-Eleven. Yeah, and we'll talk more about those here in some of our trips and tricks here. Yeah, and really cool couple. Mm-hmm. Great breakfast the mornings that we were able to eat excellent breakfast. There. We definitely come back again. Yeah. So, and the couple were cool. They were helping me find a yarn shop on one day. They spoke enough English to help out, and a lot of their guests there were either European or Americans. I didn't see any Japanese guests, so that was the one exception for us. Yeah, but it's also kind of Tokyo as well, so I kind of expected that more. So but you're right. There were Europeans. I don't know if there were any other Americans. No, maybe not. Yeah, I think almost everybody I met was European. But I thought I met another American. Oh, you might have. And they had a jacuzzi on the roof. Mm-hmm. You had to sign up for. You had to sign up for, because it was not separately gendered. Nope. And also you signed up for your time slot. Mm-hmm. All right, so day 10, we did something really cool on day 10. We went and watched the sumo practice. Now, originally the intention was to go watch sumo matches. I would much rather watch sumo practice over matches any day of the week now.
Yeah, I agree. So because it feels very intimate. We had to be there at, what time did we actually arrive there? 7:30?
Yeah, about 7:30 or so, because we left the Ryokan at about 7 o'clock. It took us probably 20 minutes by train to get where we needed to go. And then
we had a guide to take us there, and you do have to make those arrangements.
And at the end of the day, I would definitely hire the guide again.
She was great.
I would definitely hire the guide again, although I would be a little more specific about what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because there was a tangent in here. But she took us to go watch the sumo wrestlers, which was awesome.
Was so awesome. And
much better, too, because, again, at the end of the day, like, when we saw the matches, there's, like, pomp and circumstance for, like, 5-10 minutes. And the sumo matches themselves could last all of about 10 seconds.
Well, and we got to see them. We got to see them stretch and warm up and do exercises, and that really gave me so much more of an appreciation for
their agility.
They're athletes, yeah.
Their agility and it's not just being big. I mean, like, there's a lot of muscles hidden underneath a lot of that bigness.
They could do the full-on center splits. I don't mean
backflip. Well, not backflips, but they do forward flips.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing, I just remember, I have a picture of them doing the splits on the floor. And I don't mean front and back, I mean side to side. Mm-hmm. And they were just incredible athletes. And there were 8 or 9 of them in there.
Yes.
And you got to watch them all sort of spar off against each other.
Yeah, so usually what would happen is 2 different guys would spar for one another with each other for about... What seemed for about 10 minutes or so, and they would do their own little matches in there.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, new guys would come in, but they would kind of do this kind of push, kind of like you would for a football player almost. And at the end of it, what they do,
but they're pushing each other. They're not pushing
like a cart or whatever that is there, a key stand. And at the end of it, they kind of it's almost like they need to tap out, and they do this front forward roll
onto their shoulder
onto this dirt ground, which they had to keep scraping and raking
and raking and sprinkling water on.
Yep.
So I thought the whole and they referred to it as a stable.
Yes.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, there's apparently 44 different sumo stables, and the best of the best will go to complete in the major tournaments, which are 6 of them throughout the year, and they Tokyo, then to Kyoto, then back to Tokyo, then Osaka, and then back to Tokyo, and then to somewhere else.
So it was in Tokyo this particular weekend,
mm-hmm.
and our guys, the guys that we saw, were at a level that was competing at 4, 5, and 6 in the afternoon.
Yeah, so they were the big headliner kind of guys.
Yeah, so we got to watch them on TV.
Yep, some of them we got to watch on TV, which was really cool.
We got to
see a Russian guy on TV too.
Yeah,
so
that was bizarre.
Different. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh, all right, well, sure, go for it.
So towards the end of practice, another guy came in.
Oh yeah, the big guy. He's got. Big guy. He comes in and everyone is just stops and is oh, dozo, and welcome, everyone was ooh.
And people came up and bowed to him and said something to him one by one as well.
Mm-hmm. They all said their greetings to him, yeah.
Yeah. But the minute he came in, they all almost stood at attention and
yeah,
honored
very
him.
Reverential to him just being there.
And what I thought was interesting was he was doing his own warm-up and all, but I found it interesting to see who he was watching.
Mm-hmm. Because he was watching other guys as well.
At times, but not consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting.
So as soon as we got done with that, originally we were intending to go to the Sumo Museum, but that wasn't open because of the matches happening that weekend.
Right.
So we took a detour to kind of Old Tokyo.
So our guide, who I want to say was a lovely woman, probably in her early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
had some thoughts about doing a new tour to an area that she hadn't really toured before, and offered to take us for free to see Old Tokyo. And I was actually really glad we went. First of all, it was an interesting the little shopping sort of town part had people making very traditional
candies and snacks,
cookies,
and treats,
and things. So that was interesting to see. But the temple she took us to had some just exquisite carving.
This is a Zuiryo-no-Matsu shrine. Just amazing wood carving. Again, like I said before last time, Japan's got wood carving down to a science. Like these guys.
These were probably the most beautiful wood carvings we saw.
No. I mean, if anything, like
the ones in Nara were.
I think they're second to like the carts from Osaka.
But, that's true.
But even then, like these were just beautiful carvings. They were so well detailed and multi-layered, and stuff in the foreground, stuff in the front. Like it was just so amazingly well done.
Well, and what was interesting to me was we took a number of trains. I think probably the longest part was getting there because
it was a long time to get there.
It was 3 or 4 trains to get there.
Yes.
And so that took a while. But once you got there, you really did feel like you were
outside of the city.
Outside the city and in a little village.
Or just like a nice little suburb.
Yeah. And so apparently this is Old Tokyo. This is where Tokyo started.
Yes.
And so she wandered off. It took a considerable amount of time, and at one point we actually did have to tell her that we had other things we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Because I think she kind of offered to do more with us, and I think we just finally said,
like, we have other stuff planned for today, but thank you.
Yeah, but we did end up going to the place she suggested a couple of days later, which was wonderful.
Oh yeah. So one of the things we did see there is the Toro-San Museum. So apparently Toro-San is this very long-running movie series in Japan. It's kind of beloved, sort of like family, sort of like heartwarming series. The shops that we passed by are some of the same exact. The scenes of the movies and the TV show were based off those particular shops, and that's why they're still kind of very old-fashioned, kind of looking and everything.
And part of the reason why they've been preserved.
Yeah, it'd be kind of what's a great? I'm trying to think of a good example here. It'd be like
kind of like the Honeymooners.
No, what I was trying to say is like your favorite. It'd be like going to Friends and going into the coffee shop. Yes,
go to Central Perk.
Yeah, yep. It'd be like you were at Friends and you got to walk by the apartments. It's like, ooh, this is Rachel. This is Rachel's and Monica's apartments, and then across the way there's Joey and Chandler across the way. Ooh, and here's their coffee shop. Oh my! And it's an actual just coffee shop where they're just like, I swear to God, stop taking pictures, buy something already.
Well, but in the actual museum. Mm-hmm. They did have.
Yeah, they had the sets that they used that were based off of those locations. They had this wonderful. They had this wonderful tribute to this guy. And it really does make me wish like I knew more about it. Like if I had known more about this movie series beforehand, like this would have been totally up my alley. I would have totally dug this amazingly. Yeah. But like because we were not because we had only learned about it like 30-40 minutes beforehand, we were very much kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool.
This is cool. It's cool to see the sets, and you saw the sets, and then you saw pictures, and in some cases even short
videos, archival footage and stuff like that.
Footage of it in use, and that was really cool. But I'm with you. If I'd seen a couple episodes, because it looked very heartwarming and endearing, and he seems kind of like a slightly bumbling idiot that just kind of gets into whatever he was going into. Like it might have been like a little bit like the Andy Griffith Show or something like that. Heartwarming. Yeah, like it's kind of like it's the way I would have thought of it would be kind of like if The Simpsons was if The Simpsons was a very family-friendly, heartwarming show at the end of the day, and not this kind of satirical look, snarky thing,
satirical, snarky sort of bit. Like, I could get the impression that like Homer would be like Toro-san and like going through these different jobs consistently. Yeah, like that was the impression I got. Yeah. So then we went. So we did this very kind of classy old thing, and then we got to Akihabara.
Talk about contrast.
Yeah, so we went to Akihabara on a Saturday. It was very busy. At one point, there is a line that goes around the block and around the building to sign up to pre-order something. We never figured out what it was they were pre-ordering.
Well, and actually, they were in, and there were multiple lines. There wasn't just one. So there was a line for that, and then people were getting out of that line once they got through, and then stepping over into another building with another manufacturer with another line.
Yes. To pre-order something too.
Yeah, but lots of things being handed out in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people.
Again, like the shops are kind of unique in Japan because again, like they don't. It's not just like the shop is here and then there's like nothing above it. There is multiple levels of floors of stuff. Like a building is an entire department store in some cases, and it just goes up and up and up and on and on. And again, the one shop we went to had probably like 8 or 9 floors to it, and a basement. And each one,
so let's talk about this. The one shop, the first shop we went to, because we went to actually into several.
Yes.
But the first shop we went to, which as you said had 8 or 9 floors, was all anime figurines.
It was all kind of otaku, gamer, anime, video games, kind of related merchandise and stuff.
Because there was Mario, but it was all merchandise. It wasn't games you could buy. Was there a floor with games you could buy?
Well, they had a card game floor.
Yeah, they did have a card game floor.
So the people were playing Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think a couple other card games there too.
Yeah.
And you could buy cards there too. It's just that like I don't speak enough I don't look and read enough Japanese or speak enough Japanese to be able to be like, I attack you with this card.
Yeah.
Which would have been the entire thing. The guy would have been like, you can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. So that actually was on one of the top floors. So I know I bought some Pikachu boxer shorts.
Every floor kind of had a bit of a theme to it. Like,
yeah.
Some of the floors had like a model theme. So if you were into building models and accessories,
and we saw that. Yeah, and we saw several stores that had a model floor.
And then another floor was just figurines
with paint and glue and everything.
There was another floor with figurines. There was another floor that was kind of dedicated more toward like cutesy stuff. There was another floor that was meant for like stuffed animals and cosplay a little bit.
And it was one of several places where there was a floor of miniatures and ways to set up your own miniatures of
like a diorama almost.
Yeah.
What I found most interesting was the basement floor, because the basement floor had all these different display cases in it that had numbers tagged to each one of them and a number for the box. These were all used things that somebody had once bought being sold on consignment.
Yeah.
And you could buy stuff that might have a box, you might not have a box. Who knows? And you could buy something that somebody had once bought and didn't want anymore, or didn't have space for anymore.
like a in-person eBay.
Very much so, actually, yeah. I mean,
you weren't bidding on it, but yeah.
But you could very much walk up and buy it.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was really cool.
Very cool stuff.
Again, there's a lot there I kind of wanted to buy, but had to be very judicious about my logic, thinking, how am I ever going to bring anything home to begin with? We can talk about that. That was a trick later.
Yeah.
So yes, we went to that.
Additional luggage was purchased.
Not exclusively for this.
Yeah, not exclusively for this, but we couldn't have gotten home without it.
No.
Yeah.
So yes, there was that. So we went to there. But what did we do? We had lunch beforehand.
Yeah. So we landed in Akihabara, and right as we came out of the station, not maybe 100 feet, we came to what you were planning on doing.
My intention was to do this because I'd seen...
Well, we talked about this, yeah.
We talked about doing it. I wanted to go to a maid cafe because where the hell else was I going to get to go to a maid cafe? Well,
and mind you, when we talk about cafes, there aren't just maid cafes.
No.
There are owl cafes.
There was various animal cafes where if you wanted to go...
Cats, rabbits, dogs.
Yeah, it's like if you wanted to go have, like... If you wanted to, like, sit around and pet a cat or play with a cat for, like, half an hour or something. There was a cafe for you.
Yeah.
If you wanted to just pet a dog, you could do that. Like I totally dig with that idea because like on a certain level, I'm like, I kind of wonder what it'd be like to have a cat. What would it be like to play with a cat for a little bit? Boom.
Well,
and
yeah, but you're going to sit and anyway. Food in cat? Well, okay.
They don't serve you food in the cafe.
Oh, they don't.
No, in the animal kind of cafes, you get like a drink.
Oh, okay.
You can order a drink.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, you can order a drink, but then there's usually not anything fancy. A lot of the point of these cafes are more to play, watch, see the animals versus like actually having a meal.
Yeah.
The Maid Cafe was very much about kind of having a meal and getting this overtly cutesy to like the point of like nausea sort of.
So as you walk up towards the Maid Cafe, there's a girl out in her maid costume on the street trying to entice you into the cafe. She actually personally escorts you upstairs.
Yes. She escorts you up to the elevator and then runs up the stairs as quick as she can to meet you at the elevator. At the elevator when you get off.
Small elevator.
And then she gets out there and you're introduced as Master, and then for myself, and then for you are Princess.
Yes, I'm Princess.
They had very They're
all dressed as
like
French maids.
Very very brightly colored French maids.
Well, the French maid costumes were traditional French maid colors, but they had accessories.
Yeah, they had various accessories, and they were in like some were in like a very like a darker blue, and some were like a very bright like purple almost, like, and they had like.
But they had the little maid caps and the aprons and all the lace and the whole 9 yards, and they greet you off the elevator. Everybody
makes a big deal out of you coming off that elevator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All the food has faces.
Because all the food is based off of like a caricature.
Well, so they hand you a menu, and there's a minimum for being in the Maid Cafe. There's a table fee, which we only ran into a couple of times.
You only ran into like maybe 2 or 3 times at most, maybe. But at the end of the day, like the table fee is not like the table fee is kind of like almost your gratuity for being there, but because like there's not really a gratuity sort of.
They don't
thing
tip.
There.
You don't tip.
Like at the end of the day, like. They even if it's on there, like it's not outrageous. It's like maybe $4 or $5.
Yeah,
it's not out of the way here. I think the Maid Cafe was a little bit more so because of the experience that you were getting. Like we didn't leave out of there without being like I think $75-$80 in
was it that much? Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah,
but you kind of have to know that going in, and I knew it was.
Well, they tell you when you're seated. There's a table fee and a minimum order.
Yes.
So you aren't sharing a dish. You each got to order something.
Yeah, you cannot share a dish there at all.
And there's nothing you could order on that menu for under 10.
No, I think and I think like the different packages were like either like 32 to 35 yen each.
Yeah.
Like the most expensive was like 4,600 yen, and I was just like, well, we'll do this one here, and then we
shared a dessert.
We shared a dessert, yes. So like each one comes with like a drink and a meal, and then some of them might come with like a dessert at the end of it. We got to take pictures at the very end with them as well.
That was part of our package. That was the one thing that surprised me, and I get it, but you're not allowed to take pictures inside the Maid Cafe.
Nope.
Except for the sort of sponsored picture that comes with your package if you buy that package.
Yes.
Otherwise, you've paid a table fee and maybe a fee to have your ice cream soda or your cocktail, because they did serve alcoholic cocktails.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get to go away with any pictures.
Nope.
So I had a teddy bear hamburger.
I had a rice I had kind of like a egg rice, which is like basically was like a thing of rice meat, like a fried rice underneath it with like this omelet on top of it that she wrote a phrase in.
Yes.
She made it look like a cat.
And
then she had to cast a spell to make it delicious.
Well, okay, so I guess I jumped the shark here and didn't describe what it was like when you first sit down. In order to call your server, you have to meow.
Now, mind you, in Japan, and there's a YouTube video of this. other places around the world have different ways animals make noises. So in American culture, we think cats go meow, meow, meow. Yeah. In Japan, cats go nya, nya, nya.
Yeah.
So you had to go nya, 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 and you had to make kind of like the
hand gestures,
kind of hand gesture to get them to come to your table. They would not acknowledge you unless you did that, or they would be like, "Oh, master, you have to. Do you want to go nya, nya, nya?" Play along, damn it, play along.
Well, yeah, I said they're trying to envision the smoking breaks for these girls up on the roof.
I imagine like it's just like this one cigarette, and they take this just long, super hard drag off of it, and just like
because the whole time, and everything gets sung and pantomimed, everything.
Everything's got a very cutesy spell to it.
Yeah, I was exchanging glances with this guy who was Spaniard, and his wife and their little boy who were at the table next to us, and we were both. It was so over the top that we both were sort of casting looks.
It's just like, what did we sign up for? Oh my goodness!
Because when your food came, you had to go, ooh, delicious.
She would do like a little dance, and then she would cup her hands in a heart.
Yep.
Delicious.
But you had to do it. Yeah,
and you had to do it when you had to do it
with her.
Yes, and that was the same true for our soda, for our drinks, and the meal, and the ice cream thing that came along with it.
Each step of the way.
Now, my favorite part of it was the euphemisms they had for all the different things there.
You mean the water garden?
Okay, so like if you wanted to take the stairs down, you could take the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go to the bathroom, you wanted to go to the flower garden. If you wanted your receipt, you had to ask for a love letter. Or, and you had to get stamped on your way out. So
you'd have your passport stamped, or else they wouldn't let you leave.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, at the end of the day, was it a unique experience that I don't think I'd ever get anywhere else in the world? Oh hell yes. Was I going to miss it for anything? Oh hell no. Well, this was an experience that you don't care if I died of embarrassment in there. It was still worth it because, wow, were these girls just into doing all this like very obscurely cute stuff. Over the top.
They really sold it.
No, absolutely.
It was
worth every penny there.
I was watching, at one point the chef came out and was getting something and then went back into the kitchen. And I thought, there's some poor chef who's thinking, I went through all this training so I could draw faces on food.
Not only so I could draw faces on food, but I could make the cutesiest looking food in the world.
Oh, gosh, yes.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We did some shopping. We found I found some cool stuff in there. Like, I think one of my favorite things right now is I found this samurai-inspired stormtrooper, which I think is just really cool. I'm trying to find... I have to probably buy a new bookshelf just to put more stuff on, because I have that much stuff. Yeah. And I really would like another bookshelf, probably, before I put that up somewhere.
You're due for an IKEA trip.
Another bookshelf or maybe one of those cube thingies.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, so I've got that, and I've got a couple other cool stuff that I haven't even boxed out yet. That was really cool. And yeah, that was like most of that day for the most part.
Yeah.
The next day, we went to Tokyo Disney Sea. Now, Tokyo Disney Sea...
Well, we haven't talked... Isn't that the night we had Mexican food?
Oh, that's right. That night, we were both kind of looking at each other. I was like, man, you know what the first thing I want to eat when I get back to California, when I get back to the States? I want to get some Mexican food. And I was like, wait, hold up. Click on the phone.
Sure enough, Mom, right by our
right by the station. Right by the station.
Like, right by the station, yeah.
Mom, nearby the station, there is a place we could go get Mexican food.
Called Hola.
Hola, yeah. Hola. Hola.
And this is again one of those places that just had a counter. You sat at the counter.
They had an upstairs place too.
They do, oh yeah.
There was an upstairs kind of seating upstairs, but like it wasn't obviously that. I don't think he was that busy for to need that.
So we sat at the counter and they served Corona.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, mind you, it's not a pure Japanese staff. The guy that's running the place is either like
he's Hispanic. He and I were speaking Spanish.
No, he's very much Hispanic. He's very much from Mexico. or like Southern California, one of those two, because I think he spoke a fair amount of English as well.
Yeah, he did.
And then he had like a Japanese like sous chef or woman helping him. But it was very surreal because we're watching like Spanish music videos while everything's going on. I'm just like, holy shit! In Japan, I found a Mexican restaurant, and it was good too.
It was good, and we were watching the Spanish music videos. But they managed to have some Spanish music videos that had scenes that were in Tokyo.
Yeah, which was really cool. At the end of the day, like that was clearly like a YouTube playlist because you had the YouTube's kind of like elements to it. Like it would not surprise me if that was intentional.
Well, and describe how he was melting the cheese
with a little butane like burner, like blowtorch. Yeah, it was really cool. Like it was awesome. Great nachos. I think I had a chicken enchilada with the green sauce. I had sopes, which were outstanding. Yes, it was all again like it was a nice change of pace for the traditional Japanese food we were eating, and by comparison, it was our first non-Japanese meal. Realistically, yeah. Oh, when did we have the Turkish food? That would have been in Nagoya the day before, like 2 days before. Yeah. I mean, like, again, that was kind of a unique thing where we found like a Turkish kebab thing, and we were just like, let's stop and get lunch. Yeah. And that was really good too. We'll totally eat there again. And again, for like $5-6 for the meal, like totally worth it. Yeah. Absolutely. So that was that day. The next day, we went to Tokyo Disney Sea. Yes. Now, for people who don't know, back in the 90s, late 90s, when they were doing before they did the expansion to Disney's California Adventure, they had originally bought up land in Long Beach, Disney did, to build another theme park out there because they didn't think that 2 theme parks across the way would be a feasible option. They didn't want to bulldoze their parking lot to make way for another theme park. Long Beach saw kind of how Anaheim and Disney, which don't have a great relationship, were at, and basically said, no, you can't build a theme park in Long Beach. And so they shipped the idea out to everywhere, and then finally Tokyo was like, Tokyo had a Disneyland at that point, and Tokyo and the Japanese were like, we'll take that. Yeah. And to its credit, like one of the greatest like looking theme parks I've ever been to. Oh, it was incredible. Mm-hmm. It was neat to see because it didn't have the features that you normally see in Disneyland. There is no it's a small world. Because this is kind of like the California Adventure of Disneyland of like our Disneyland here in on the West Coast. Right. And so like it's very much in the same kind of like vein. Like it's all the other park rides that you might find. Although elsewhere. It did have Indiana Jones. And it did have a Soaring California Soaring, yeah, like a variation on it. So like there was some similar-ish stuff. But it still was really cool. Magnificent looking. Oh my goodness. It just so well done. Ariel's Under Grotto. The Sea World, Ariel's Grotto. Oh, fantastic. And then they had Aladdin's. Agrabah there as well. And that was so beautiful looking. Like it was nothing there wasn't pretty looking. Just. And instead of Dumbo, you had flying carpets. Oh yes. Very cool. Oh yeah. They had like a submarine-esque ride that was cool. That was really cool. They were kind of in these little cabins, and you were walking. That was 1,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Yep, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And then instead of teacups, they had these water. What would you describe those? This was in Nemo's world. Okay, so there's like this water area. Now, keep in mind, Tokyo Sea is right by the ocean. It's right on the water, yeah. Yeah, it's right by the ocean, so there's a lot of water theming there. There's even like a nostalgic sort of like cruise liner there as well that you can kind of walk through. And actually, if you're up on the cruise liner and you can actually see it over one of the walls, you see the ocean. Yeah. Oh, you can see the ocean from where these teacups things were. Now, to best describe this here, these are not teacups in the original sense of teacups. They're not on a stage. There's like this water kind of park. And now, mind you, again, it's only like 2 inches deep. Although you wouldn't know that by looking at it. No, you wouldn't know that by looking at it. And there's like these buggies that you load into. They look kind of like bumper cars. Kind of like big, giant, oversized bumper cars. And it navigates this path through the water semi-randomly, although there's a pattern to it, clearly, because if you look enough on the ground, you can see where all the tire marks have kind of gone through. Like, this is something where I think every day somebody's got the glorious job of pressure washing this in the morning. Yeah. Before it opens up, before they raise all the water. I have to believe that. But no, like, this thing was very much vomit-inducing if you were just staring forward.
I took a video of it, and people told me they were getting nauseous watching the video.
Should have been on the thing.
Yeah.
Because again, like, you go forward, and then, like, you suddenly decide, no, we're not going to go forward. We're going to make a left-hand turn. And,
but you have no control.
Yeah, there's no control over it. And then suddenly you're like, you know what? Nah, let's do, like, 360, 720, 1080. Okay, then we're going to go backwards now all of a sudden, and then forwards again. And none of it's, like, a gentle thing either. It's not like it comes to, like, a slow, gentle stop. It's like, and brake.
Yeah.
And then 360, you're just like,
you're whirling,
make it stop.
You're whirling around. Actually, I thought that was a lot of fun.
I thought it was really cool, too. I would totally do it again. I would love to see it implemented somewhere else at another Disney theme park.
Well, and, okay, so from start to finish, we got there. It has its own sort of
tram system.
Tram system.
To like the Disney kind of
and
outdoor mall.
And to get you started,
it's not inexpensive. That's this tram either, and it only goes to 3 stops.
It only goes 3 stops,
and it's like
$4 or $5.
Yeah,
which, considering what you're paying in Tokyo, where the average trip is $2-something, it seemed like
it seemed
really
it seemed kind of awfully expensive considering the fact that.
But I think that all went into to pay for the handholds that are dangling from the ceiling, which are Mickey heads.
Oh yes, the
very cool.
Again, theming.
Yeah,
very much nailed.
And all, but then the lines to get in, because they do a full inspection.
Mm-hmm. They check your bags and everything.
Check your bags.
They actually moved along rather quickly more quicker than I thought it would. Like, we weren't in line for more than 10,
15 minutes. Yeah, something maybe. Like that. Yeah. Long lines to get in. Again, all Japanese. Very few non-Japanese.
I would wager to say we were probably like, and I never saw any other Americans or any other people. Maybe there were some clearly there. I know there were people there, but like it was far and few in between. Yeah,
I was really surprised by that. So very few foreigners there. The other thing that really I was tickled with, talk about the cosplay. Oh my gosh.
So here's this deal. Now, if you remember back from our episode where we talked about conventions and cosplay, obviously this is a Japanese sort of thing where people dress up as their favorite characters and stuff. Disney is apparently totally on board with this. Now, if you're a child in Disney on the American side here on the West Coast, at least from Disneyland that I'm aware of, if you're a child, you can get away with dressing up in a costume even if it's not Halloween. Although it's greatly encouraged during Halloween. But if you're an adult, you can't dress up in a costume. That's not the case here at Disneyland, or at Disney's Tokyo Sea. We saw a number of people
probably 20 to 25% of the people that were there were in full on cosplay.
Yeah, at least 20% of it was in some sort of cosplay.
And cosplay couples.
Yes, cosplay couples was a very big deal. We saw. How many times did we see like Aladdin and Jasmine?
That was probably the most popular one we saw.
Yeah, mostly because the movie just came out.
But I mean, there were cosplay for.
There was a Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We saw a number of people as like variations on. We saw Ratatouille cosplay.
Chefs, yeah.
Like the guy looked like the guy from Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Minus the chef's hat, because you can't wear a hat, you can't wear a mask. You can wear a hat, but he clearly wasn't wearing his hat. But that was really cool. We saw every
version of Ariel. We have a great picture.
We have a great picture of all these various Ariels in different stages. We even have a couple like Ursulas, like this beauty shot Ursula, and like this ugly version of Ursula.
Eels. There were the eels.
There was a girl who like kind of looked like street, but then like if you looked at her hands, she like had like this sweatshirt that like went over her hands, and she could like have the eels, and she was moving her arms like eels. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was really cool. And then we saw Eric. There was one like lone Eric around all these Ariels. How lucky for him! Yeah. And it was Ariel in various stages too, like in like a ball gown right after she gets off of the.
Well, she's in the pink dress. She's in the blue dress that she's wearing when she's riding around with Eric. She's in the rags that she comes out of the water in. Then she's in the dressy rags that she comes out of the water when Triton makes her human again. She's in the wedding dress.
She's in the mermaid
Big
tail.
tail.
Like again, like there was
in her sleeping clothes, carrying a pillow.
Yeah,
every version of Ariel.
There must have been like almost 10 of them there
for
every
costume change. There were Maleficents.
We saw like a bunch of the Kingdom Hearts characters as well. We
saw Jafar a couple times.
Yes, we saw again. Like it was really really cool that like Disney was like totally like come in cosplay.
And if you weren't in cosplay, you were wearing the headbands again.
Yeah,
headbands and hats. Lots of the hats with the character's face on the front and their whole body
on the back,
hanging off the back of
the hat. So like
this
kind of enlarged and kind of like a head sort of thing. Like they're like you've taken their head, but they've got like this little bitty belly in the back. Kind of reminds me of like a tiger rug almost, with like a very giant tiger head, but a very itty bitty little body at the back.
Yeah, Donald was the one you probably saw the most of that way, but yeah.
You saw a lot of Mickeys like that.
A lot of Mickeys
too.
Yeah.
Not a lot of Goofies.
Not a lot of Goofies, but they had a goofy, slouchy knit hat that was pretty cool.
So yeah, if I go there, I dress up as Goofy.
Yeah.
Because I got the long feet for it, and I can do the walk, and it's like, whoosh, yuck. Well, just to screw with people.
Yeah, and then much like Universal, lots of people in groups all dressed the same.
Yes.
And all wearing the same. They had Dalmatian ears. They had.
That was a popular one as well. The Dalmatians.
Yeah, the Dalmatians were really popular. So there was Winnie the Pooh. There was everything.
I think if we do that again during the Halloween time, because it's clearly a Halloween thing. You got to make a bingo game out of it, or you got to play like a scavenger hunt kind of game out of it. Like you got to like have a camera. You got to be able to say like, took a picture of like Cruella de Vil, like took a picture of like 6 villains or something. Like you got to make a game out of it because it's that much going on that it's worth it to almost play a game out of it.
It was so cool. There were Toy Story was obviously real big.
Yes, there was a lot of Toy Story.
There's a lot of Toy Story. But I mean, I'm not talking just a headband or a shirt, I'm talking the whole 9 yards outfit.
Yeah, that somebody probably made on their own too.
And I saw a number of Jessies with the red yarn wigs.
Yep.
It was
it was really cool to see that. Oh yeah, no, and imagine like if you're a child there as well. Like, you just got to be like, oh my goodness, there's 15,000 Ariels. Then imagine if you're the little one that looks like Ariel as well, like your little child Ariel. You're like, ah!
Much like California Adventure, not that many kids, not that many things for kids.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff there was more aimed, I think, more toward a more mature audience, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely saw that. There's some stuff that's mainly aimed toward kids, and mostly I think that was in Ariel's Grotto area.
Yeah.
And a few other places, but very much kind of aimed toward
maybe the flying carpets in Agrabah. Although most of Agrabah was adult stuff.
Yeah. So we did an version of Indiana Jones, which is the exact same Indiana Jones.
And I actually took a video of that thing the whole way through. So I have Harrison Ford speaking in Japanese.
Yes. We also did not the Twilight Tower of Terror. It was just like this haunted tower, or this terror tower, or something of that variation.
He built a tower.
It's basically, if you remember the Disneyland version of the Twilight Tower of Terror, it's the exact same version with a Japanese story behind it that had this really cool mechanic to it as well.
Yeah.
Like it had a really well thought out story, and one of the things I really like about the story is that like everything, all the material for it is in English because it's kind of like the American port city.
Well, it's supposed to be taking place in New York.
Yeah, so all of it's in English. So like, it was finally one of those things like, finally, we know what's going on.
So even though the dialogue, because there was quite a bit of dialogue, even though the dialogue was in Japanese, we understood what was going on.
Yeah, we could follow along, and even if you don't speak Japanese, like
you could follow.
You could follow along. What was literally kind of. One of the things I did miss from the maybe the West Coast version of it here in Anaheim was that like the attendants to that are intentionally kind of spooky. They're meant to kind of like throw you off and not to give you like a jump scare, but kind of to come off kind of like creepy, kind of like good evening,
good luck,
we'll see you if you get back.
Yeah,
like the Japan, and maybe we lost some of that in translation, and maybe they were, but Everyone seemed
they
kind of
were
like a little
flowery. They were pretty flowery. They were pretty
like
pleasant.
upbeat.
Yeah,
And like don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's all right. It's just a little scary. It's not that scary at all. It's just a little scary. It's all right. It's okay.
They didn't seem menacing.
No, I would have appreciated more menace, but at the end of the day, it probably doesn't cater to a lot of their audience that is there either. So like, a lot of people are probably just going in there for the thrills and not to be scared.
Yeah.
So, so we got out of that, and then the next thing we did is we went to Odaiba, which got to see my statue, my Gundam statue. So, and
by then it was raining. So we left Disneyland. What about 7:00?
About like 6:30, 7 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
Went to Odaiba, walked around a little bit to find my statue because it's not. I got the impression it's right off the station. It wasn't quite off the station.
It's a bit of a.
It's a little bit of a walk. Yeah, but
it's not bad though.
No, not bad. It was maybe like a 10-minute walk, give or take. And then we got to see my statue, which is like a life-size version of what a Gundam would be. It's like 4 feet. Yeah. It's like almost like four stories tall, and it's this giant thing.
Outside a mall.
Outside of a mall. Oddly enough, just outside of a mall, just kind of hanging out there. We went in and had dinner. We had tempura.
Yeah.
Very good tempura.
But at a food court.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, excellent. And then went back inside and went back outside. And as we're coming outside, the thing's doing stuff. There's a music video that's playing along that's kind of showing
it's come alive.
And now, mind you, like anybody who knows the Gundam series here, we actually did an episode on it when we did our Mecha series on it. One of the shows was called Gundam Unicorn. Very, very good show. It's on Netflix. I highly recommend watching it because it's the OAV version, so they're all about like 50-ish minutes long, give or take. Little itty bitty movies. The robot transforms.
Yeah.
So this robot goes to this very kind of standard, kind of generic looking mode, and then it kind of all of its little armor bits kind of open up to reveal like this red core that eventually turns like other colors. There's lights all over this statue that are going nuts, and it looks really, really cool.
Well, and so I have a video of this too. There is the thing that comes out of its, or sort of reveals itself in its head.
Yeah, so what it does is like elements of its chest kind of open up, its shoulder bits open up.
And there's a video playing the whole time on the wall of the mall.
Yeah. Its face it has a generic face. It kind of shrinks back, and then another one kind of replaces it, and then its horn that's at the front splits open. So the reason it's called a unicorn is because when the two kind of like Japanese style kind of like crest on the head kind of closes together, it makes like a single horn, which is reminiscent of a unicorn. That's where it gets its name from. That was really cool.
That was really cool. I had, when we walked up on it, it was like, oh, this is cool. It's big. It's lit. It's kind of neat.
Look how you get
lots of people taking pictures of it. A whole like little lawn area that you can kind of watch it from.
Oh yeah, no, there's plenty of seating area. Had it not been raining, that would have been a great place to see it from.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So then we saw, and then it does this kind of transformation thing every so often, like every kind of like hour and a half to 2 hours or so.
So we just happened to hit
it at the right time to see it.
Yeah.
So so I got to see my statue, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And then we went back to the Ryokan.
Yeah.
What I should say though is that when we got into Tokyo on the first day from Shibuya, that's when we had the Mexican food. The second day when we got back from Akihabara, that's when we had the ramen.
Oh, the ramen was awesome.
The ramen in which we had to go to a kiosk, pay money in that kiosk to buy
Take the little tickets.
then give it to the chef, because the chef was like...
He spoke no English.
No English F's given at all either.
Yeah.
It was just like, you got to know what to do. You have to know what you're doing. I can't help you if you don't know what you have to do.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody else came by. He was like, you have to help him. You have to help him. And she
she
helped us, and she was finally like, oh. And I wanted something spicy because I hadn't really eaten anything all that spicy in Japan at that point here. The closest thing I had to that was like something that was, like I had not tempura but tonkatsu just soaked in Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah.
And, well, it was still very good. It was at the very end. It was just like, no more Worcestershire sauce, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we had very spicy.
Mine was not as spicy as yours.
No, I wanted mine extra spicy because I wanted something spicy because I like spicy stuff now.
Yeah.
I did it as a child. Now as an adult, I'm like, bring Bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Like, I would eat a ghost pepper just to play with it.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh, and I was just like, no. If I do it the one time, I do it the one time and never again. But I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
What do I have to lose?
So she helped us order, and then
we sat at the bar again.
Yeah, this is again one of those places that just had hardly any seats.
Now, well, mind you, it's a slightly bigger place. There was a bar, and then there was another kind of like half bar on the other side that wasn't connected to the kitchen side. We sat in front of the kitchen,
which I love doing.
Oh my goodness, so awesome! Like, you just watch them, and you're just like, it's so cool.
So cool.
So yeah, and I had very, very spicy rice, spicy ramen. Slurping is a thing. It's okay to slurp.
Yeah. In
Japan, it's a totally okay thing. Don't feel don't feel afraid to raise the bowl to your mouth and just.
It's so good.
Okay. And the last day, I think, was kind of like our slightly breather day here. We went to the Asakusa Shrine and Temple, which very packed for a Monday.
Yeah.
Very busy for a Monday. A lot of foreigners there too.
Lots of foreigners, yeah. That was a surprise because up to that point we really hadn't seen very many.
No, yeah. I think it was kind of like, oh, foreigners! Finally, we see them.
Yeah. Here
they are. Look at that.
But very touristy. So
it's very touristy area.
The temple grounds itself, and there's some gardens
nearby
around the
as
temple.
Well, yeah.
And very, very nice. The area around it, really, really touristy. It's where you go shopping for souvenirs.
Oh, it was the best place to go find souvenirs.
Yeah.
It really
was.
And
even though it was a souvenir area, prices seemed reasonable.
Yeah, like that was the thing. I mean, we'd walked through a number of touristy sort of covered shopping markets a number of times throughout our trip. Famously, we were in a covered market area that I think would normally be a lot more busier had we not had the cart festival going on there.
Yeah.
By the way, if you it's right across from the station in Osaka. You have to go visit it you have to watch them from there because it is the best place to watch it from. If we had been out in the sun because it was really hot on a Saturday as well, we would have given up a long time earlier.
Yeah.
But it was perfect. But we've been in a lot of covered markets. Like we went through a covered market. We were in Nara for a little bit. Certainly when we were in Osaka, we went through a number of covered markets. That was same as well. We were in Kyoto. We did the samurai experience. Like there was a lot of covered markets, which is unique. I think just to Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, everything was a very kind of semi-reasonable price at the end of the day. Nothing was like, oh, this is this price.
Yeah.
Like everything there was very reasonable. And one of the nice things about it was too is that because if you were a foreigner, they have this program where you show your passport, you don't pay any sales tax at all.
As long as you're paying 5,000 yen or more, which is the equivalent of $50.
About $50 or more. But at that point, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there was so that was kind of the benefit of that. If you were traveling and you had a duty free they were not duty free necessarily, but you would see in the front where it says you could ask it's like tax free. And they would always tell you like over 5,000.
Yeah, and you have to have your passport.
And you have to have your passport
because they need to take down the number of.
They need to take it down, and you need to kind of like stamp it in there, like. And the rule is also that you're not supposed to open it before you get back home.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people that were checking my passport to double check that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Like, go ham, but just know that is a rule there for that.
Yeah, and they tape all your bags shut.
We also got to go to what would be traditionally considered a Japanese sort of Sears / Macy's kind of building.
So we'll back up just a second and say that some of the things that were available in that particular shopping area included we got wooden sandals. Traditional Japanese wooden sandals.
We found traditional Japanese wooden sandals. We found this hoppy that I'm wearing right now.
Right. So they had a couple of used kimono shops, which was
really cool.
Which was really cool because we each bought used kimonos from there, and wonderful selection and beautiful things.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing. I mean, everything was there. It was again like a very tiny little shop that you might find in a mall. outdoors, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But everything there was very reasonably priced. Nothing. I never felt at any given time that I was being ripped off or that.
I thought my umbrella shop was probably a little high, but I really wanted that umbrella. So.
Yeah, but again, at the same time, like we would never really see those umbrellas ever again. We saw them one time in Kyoto.
And this is an umbrella with sumo wrestlers on it.
Yeah, a printed kind of like thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, very awesome.
But yeah, so we went into the sort of like a Sears sort of thing.
With various floors with like different theming to everyone, like
but higher end.
Oh yeah, definitely higher end.
But what surprised me about it was a lot of those were not, and we discovered this also when we went to the Pokemon
store. Yeah,
yeah, that a lot of these places were separate shops. They weren't all.
Yeah, like you would go. The best way I can describe it is this: if you like walk through like Macy's or Sears or JCPenney's, and you know how you have like those individual kind of like jewelry display sections and the makeup
separate
sections.
Counters, yeah.
Those are not all part of the same thing. Those are just individual vendors there at those particular places, and that's just their shop right there.
That's their shop. Kind of like going to the kiosks that are in the middle of the mall.
Yeah. I very much like that too.
Yeah. So, but as part of a bigger store.
And mind you, there's like some areas that are all like there's a larger general area for that, but the floor you were on the most had a lot of that smaller stuff there versus the floors I were on. A large area was just like devoted to electronics. Another one was just devoted to books and manga.
But it was true of the Daiso that we went to too.
Oh yeah, no. Daiso as well was very much kind of like a consignment shop almost. The store we went to in Tokyo for the Pokemon was also very much like that too.
Yeah. So that's a thing.
Oh yeah, definitely a thing there. We found a lot of kind of cool shopping there. So I recommend Asasuka if you're going to go shopping for stuff.
Yeah.
Both kind of expensive and not expensive. Oddly enough, a rock and roll Hard Rock Cafe store.
Yeah.
Not the cafe.
Just the store.
Just a store.
Which your dad really likes Hard Rock Cafe merchandise, so we got him shirts.
So it was an excellent trip up to that point, but how do you end a trip to Tokyo if you're a foreigner?
You end it at the Robot Restaurant.
Now, what we will say about this here is that, did you see another Japanese person that wasn't in the show?
No.
No, I think the entire audience here was all Americans. Now, one trip we will say about the Robot Restaurant, the website makes the appearance that you have to buy a meal beforehand.
You make your reservations online and you pay for them beforehand. And yes, I was under the impression that you had to buy a meal.
Apparently you do not, because a lot of people didn't.
A lot of people didn't, and I would tell you don't.
No.
It was not a good meal.
It was not a great meal.
It wasn't bad.
It wasn't a bad meal, but for what we paid for it, we expected more.
Yeah. But the Robot Restaurant
is hard to explain.
It's like Cirque du Soleil, but with.
It's like Cirque du Soleil if it all was contained on the size of a basketball court, including the audience on the basketball court.
Yeah, it was. It was intimate.
On the third basement is where it was located at.
Yeah.
Or the second or third basement level.
But you had to go up several flights to where they kept you waiting in a bar.
They kept you waiting in like a lounge, which had people dressed as like Daft Punk robots playing jazz, piano, and drums. Like, that was kind of cool.
A bassist, and they were hamming it up too.
Oh yeah, they were totally hamming it up. And then you go downstairs, and again, I mean, like the entire room itself, not including the backstage areas. And now, mind you, it takes forever to go down these stairs. At one point,
it's narrow, and there's lots of people. It was packed. It was sold out.
Oh, yeah, no, it was definitely sold out. I think every show for them is kind of sold out. But they're eventually kind of telling us, like, oh, please keep moving toward the exit. We're all just like...
We're trying.
It's not like it's a big exit. They fit, like, 2 people up at once up the stairs.
Yeah.
And we're Americans, so we're polite. So we give everybody distance in front of ourselves.
Well, personal space is not a thing in Asia.
Well, in Japan, at least, again, I mean, like you don't take up more room than you need to.
Yeah,
makes sense. So we get kind of like buckled into like these seats. I want to say
it was like being at a school desk in high school.
Oh yes, very much like a school desk in high school. Very, very cramped. I kind of felt bad for the lady next to me because like
Oh, you're touching thighs with everybody.
Oh yeah, no, I was touching thighs with everybody, but I don't know how comfortable she felt with me doing it. It's one of those times.
It wasn't like a choice. We were packed in there.
No, it's one of those things where like sometimes like I feel bad that my knees kind of spread out like this. I wish I had like a little like rope or string that could tie my knees together so I could just like have them together and not be like bumping into somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, hope you were smaller because it's there. So seating is Japanese style seating. It's tiny and small.
Yeah.
But not for the crowd that's going to it.
Yeah.
Which was a very much a Western sort of crowd.
Yeah.
And the lights went off, and we kind of got greeted by like some like not necessarily kabuki sort of warrior kind of guys, but like mashed drummer. It was very samurai themed sort of thing
with taiko drums, and there were women playing. The women were dressed almost like mythical
water creatures almost.
Yeah.
Mind you, this is just the beginning, and then the like sets kind of kick in where like these giant like they warn you ahead of time, like if you're in the front row you got to learn
back.
They got to tell you like don't be like leaning forward watching like you're watching like the football game. You got to be like back of your seat recliner style, just like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy it back here.
Yeah, lean back because that stuff will be in your face.
Stuff will pass.
We're in the front row, yeah.
And they give you kind of a demonstration of like, okay, now lean back. And like, okay.
Yeah.
Stuff comes at you, and it's not. If it hits you, it hits you. They're going to keep on with the show.
Yeah, so they have all these different sort of vehicles. Now, nothing's really a robot. There are things they are controlling these with joysticks, but nothing's
really a true robot at all. And that's fine.
And there are a lot of performers on them. It's like
or
seeing in them. Yeah. So So it's sort of like a itty bitty Vegas.
Cirque du Soleil.
Well, yeah.
Without the gymnastics element.
Without the gymnastics, but with lots of lights and bells and whistles, and the show actually was what, 90 minutes?
It was I think the entire thing was supposed to be like a 90-minute sort of show. It went along pretty damn quick, and I never was like thinking
it moves
really quickly, and I never thought to myself like, geez, like.
Well, there are two intermissions, and there are 4 distinct stories.
No, I really only counted like 3-ish. Like unless you count the one where like the 2 painter guys, if you count that as a story, it's kind of more like an intermission.
You had kind of the towards the end you had the guys on the motorcycles, and the guys in the light up suits.
No, that was in the middle.
Is that in the middle?
So what you had to be.
That was after the Sentai thing.
Well, no. So you had this very Japanese sort of show element sort of thing. It was very based
samurai.
Very samurai.
There were samurais actually fighting.
Yeah, and it was very kind of based off kind of like Japanese myths sort of stuff. Like,
yeah.
Clearly there was a story that we were not keyed into, but even if we weren't completely keyed into it, like
need to be.
We didn't really care. Like these are people on these like just drumming back and forth and dancing in front of you, and these stages are literally moving all around you. That first part was the really cool one.
Yeah.
Then you had like the light show guys came out after that, and you had this Sentai. The third show, I think, if you really want to take my opinion on it, was basically a copyright infringement show.
You even had a Ninja Turtle.
You had like a Ninja Turtle. You had like basically anything of like a note from like American sort of things, and you had like the classic
there was
sort of
a Power Ranger villain, the one
Sentai
woman.
villains kind of things, elements going on, like
eventually being eaten by
a dragon, a person riding a dragon, and then came out another guy, and it was like, oh no, apparently this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it was just like it very much felt like a Power Ranger episode. It was like, but we're all and mind you, everything's
with a Ninja Turtle,
and everything is in English too, so you can at least
understand it. Yeah, it was all in English.
They clearly know who their audience was.
Yeah.
And then they had like this Michael Jackson sort of. The last show was this Michael Jackson sort of tribute that was like
We Are the World.
We Are the World. That was like everybody's kind of like the girls were kind of dressed up in like mock sort of like
different country
flags made sort of thing going on.
Yeah,
and then it just dissolved into like a goodbye show.
Yeah. And
then we were told to get out
because they had another. Yeah, because they had another show. So we went to the 7:30 show. They tell you to show up at 7.
Yep.
And we showed up actually about 6:45, and we're glad we did because we stood in line for a bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a line out front. I think a lot of people were still buying their tickets if they hadn't already.
Yeah. So, and we had reserved in advance because I was told it would sell out, and it clearly
very much did.
But by the time we got out of there, it was 9 or so, and
it was just about a little after 9 o'clock after we finally made our way up the stairs after this woman telling us, "Please, no standing around. You should leave. You should leave." And we're just like,
"We're trying.
I will find where that microphone is and I will jam it down your throat. Please don't tell me to leave again. I want to leave very badly. Maybe if you had a second exit."
Yeah. So they were clearly getting ready to seat either a 9:30 or a 10 o'clock show.
Yeah, I think like maybe a 9 o'clock show or a 9:30 show. But mind you, they still have to move all the stuff around back to where it was.
And restage it, yeah.
And restage everything. Because again, like we walk in and we're like walking, we think we're through like curtain areas, and then like they get revealed to be another element of this moving stage sort of element that comes around you. You're just like, well, hot damn, I didn't know that was there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was, I think, the perfect ending.
Yes.
All flash, very much meant for tourists, but who the hell cares?
Absolutely.
It was pretty spectacular. And $60 without dinner. Dinner was $15, yeah.
I mean, even $15 for dinner was not the end of the world.
No, it wasn't. There were so many restaurants around it that we could have so easily eaten.
We could have very well eaten afterwards.
And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a big meal, although we didn't go out and have more food. But
for lunch we went to a store and bought, trying to find more Kit Kats.
Yep, and we bought sake.
And we bought sake. And one thing I picked up beforehand was some convenience store food.
Yeah.
It was some fried rice, which was very good rice.
Which was very good. Which we'd eaten
back at the Ryokan, and we kind of took like a little nap and a little break.
Yeah.
It was a very easy day for us.
Yeah.
And then the next day we went back home. We got the train, by the skin of our teeth train.
Yeah.
That's like the express that goes directly to the airport in Narita, which is not a short trip.
The warning is really that train only runs once an hour.
Yeah. So like if we had not caught,
whereas everything else runs like every 15 minutes or 10 minutes or
every like 4 or 5 minutes here. You're never waiting too long for a train in Japan. Usually, if it's a bigger line, if it's a smaller line, you might wait a little bit, but usually
still not
that
very long.
No, not that long. No. But no, so we made it by the skin of our teeth. We got to the airport, and heck, we didn't find more Kit Kats we didn't even expect to find. We're like, oh, hey, various flavors of Kit Kats.
Oh, these are ones we don't have.
Cool. Let's buy them up.
Well, and by the end of the day, we picked up like 10 different flavors or so.
At least, probably.
Kit Kats, yeah. All in the little mini bars, which is really how you get them.
Perfect sizing for that, yeah. So yeah, and then we went back home, and again, I would go back to Japan in a heartbeat.
Oh, it was a blast. There was so much. So at the end of the day, we both picked our top 5, and they were very similar.
Yes, I think at the end of the day, I think we both rate kind of the carts in Osaka is kind of our favorite thing.
That's our favorite thing, yeah.
Because it was just like so like wow sort of thing. And then I think the second one for us is the Onsen in Mount Fuji.
The Mount Fuji hotel experience that was incredible. Although the sumo's right there with it.
Oh yeah, it's a very short 3 right there.
Yeah.
It's like 2A and 2B.
Yeah. My number 4 was Nara.
My number 4 actually was Dotonbori.
Dotonbori was really cool.
Because that, mind you, that was the start of our trip.
That was the start of our trip, and I was so delighted. And that's one of those things where knowing where your hotel is and choosing it well makes a huge difference. Especially, and we can talk about this next week when we talk about tips and tricks. Tips and tricks,
and also some of our experiences and myths that we heard about, and then we kind of realized not quite the case.
Not quite the case, But when you're new to a place that has such a distinctly different culture, it was really nice for that hotel to be so close to the first thing we wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
And to have it be right out the door. So on your part, Well chosen.
Thank you.
That really, because we no more than got there. You've been on a plane all night. You've lugged your luggage on a train, and then
it's like by the time we get there, it's about noon, and we're both just like, all right, well, what do we do now? And then you see this.
We've been on planes for like 15 hours.
And then we're on a train for another 25, almost 30 minutes.
And then we walked, 3/4 of a mile or so to the hotel, which doesn't sound like much, but you're lugging luggage.
Oh yeah.
So
we'll talk about luggage next time too, because we
learned things.
Oh yes.
But we dropped the luggage and hit that street, and
it was like a second wind. It was perfect.
It was so perfect.
Like and mind you, like we could have very well done shopping there. We purposely waited till we got to Tokyo because we didn't want to be lugging around a lot of stuff if we had to.
And we can talk about that next week, because really I have no regrets about waiting. The only thing I regret were those stupid little shopping bags.
Yes, in Kyoto, we saw them.
We should have picked up those. But really, that to me was a smart move.
Yeah. What was your number 5?
So my number 5 was the stupid robot restaurant.
Oh, well, okay. So what was your number 4 then?
My number 4 was Nara.
Was Nara, okay? Because my number 5 was actually also probably the robot restaurant. I think again my number 4 was Dotonbori. After that would have been number 6 would have been the Starbucks.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I love. Yeah. We talked about that when we talked about Kyoto. Was the Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Dotonbori was so cool. I mean, that's like way up there too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to pick.
Yeah. I purposely wanted to see a lot of stuff and not like any just one particular thing. We got to see quite a lot of stuff there too. We got
and we had long days and we did a lot of walking. But even with that said, I feel like we got to explore the things we saw. It wasn't like these were drive-bys.
No.
Which I hate. So I mean, I felt like I felt. Well, we can talk about this next week when we talk about planes, trains, and buses.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like because we traveled the way they travel.
Yeah, we got a very authentic experience.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think that'll do it for us this week. When we come back next week, it'll be our last episode on Japan, and we will talk about. If you're going to Japan, here are some tricks and tips for that we found in Japan once we got there. That we didn't. We knew some of this, but not a lot of it beforehand.
Yeah.
So if you're planning on going to Japan, this is a definitely must kind of listen to sort of podcast for hopefully some great information.
Yeah.
That we hopefully will elaborate a little bit more than a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just like, oh, you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then bam, you're good. And we're all just like,
but nobody told me this.
But how do you do this? And
yeah.
We'll explain that more for you. So we're going to post up a bunch of pictures on the website at nerdtutorialpodcast.com of all the stuff we saw. We're also going to go ahead and put a link as well to the blog on our Facebook group, so you can like us there and ask us questions if you want there, especially as we're coming up on our tips and tricks. Yeah, I can't say that for some reason.
Tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks. If you want to know something about how we did something in Japan, let us know. We're more happy to explain it there. And let me know on Twitter as well at nerd_tutorial if you have questions about how we did stuff in Japan as well, because we totally want to share that with you. Anybody who's got questions about it, we totally want to give you the heads up on what we know before you go.
Yep.
But we'll see you guys next week here, and then after that, Mom will get a choice of what we do after that. We have options.
Oh,
we have a backlog of stuff that we want to do.
Yeah.
So, on behalf of myself, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Sayonara.
Bye.